We didn't mean to trespass. That's the thing I keep coming back to, even now. We didn't sneak past fences or ignore warning signs or joke about haunted woods. We followed a dotted trail on a state park map and pitched our tent exactly where it said we were allowed to. 3 college kids, full break, no cell service by choice. Evan wanted the full disconnect experience, and Maya liked the idea of being unreachable for a weekend. I just wanted out of the dorms. The woods were louder than I expected. Not birds or wind, branches snapping far away. Like footsteps that never came close enough to see. Evan laughed it off, said forests always sound like that. Maya took photos. I helped set up camp. It wasn't until sunset that we noticed the cabin. It sat deeper in the trees, just beyond where the trail curved out of sight. No lights, no smoke, no trail leading to it, which was strange, because the underbrush was thick everywhere else. The ground around the cabin looked worn, like something had passed through again and again. Did the map say anything about private property? I asked. Evan shook his head. Probably some old hunting cabin. Nobody uses it anymore. Maya zoomed in on it with her camera. Something off about it. That should have been our cue to pack up and leave. But night was already settling in, and the trail back to the parking lot was a 3-hour hike. We stayed. Around midnight, we heard the first scream. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even close. But it was human. A sharp, wet sound that cut off too suddenly. Evan bolted upright. "Did you hear that?" Maya nodded, her face pale in the glow of the camp lantern. I couldn't speak. My heart was already trying to claw out of my chest. We waited. Listened. Nothing. Then footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. They didn't circle us. They didn't rush. They just approached. Stopped. Approached again. I whispered, "Someone's messing with us." Evan grabbed the flashlight and stepped outside the tent. The beam cut through the trees, shaking as his hand trembled. "Hello?" he called. The footsteps stopped. For a moment, I thought maybe we'd imagined everything. That stress and darkness had played tricks on us. Then the flashlight beam landed on a shape between the trees. A man, tall, broad, wearing something dark and stiff like a butcher's apron. His face was wrong, too still, too empty, like he wasn't curious about us at all. Evan didn't even have time to react. The man moved fast, faster than anything that size should. There was a flash of metal, a wet sound, and Evan dropped without a word. Maya screamed. I ran. I didn't think. I didn't look back. Branches tore at my face as I sprinted blindly through the woods, the sound of Maya's screaming following me until it didn't anymore. That silence was worse. I tripped, rolled down a slope, and landed hard against something wooden. The cabin. Up close, it was worse than I imagined. The door hung open. Inside, the smell hit me. Iron, rot, something sweet and sickening. I tried to crawl away, but my ankle screamed in pain. Footsteps approached. I dragged myself inside the cabin and hid behind a table. He entered without hesitation. Up close, I saw stains on his clothes. Old ones. Layers of them. He carried a long knife, nicked and worn. He didn't search frantically. He knew where I was. He walked around the table. I don't remember screaming, but my throat was raw afterward. I remember the knife coming down, the pain exploding in my shoulder as I shoved it away with everything I had. I remember grabbing a hammer off the floor and swinging blindly. I hit him. Once. It was enough. I ran again. I don't know how long I ran. My ankle burned. My vision blurred. At some point, I realized I was covered in blood. Some mine, some not. When I finally burst out of the tree line, I collapsed onto asphalt. A road. Headlights appeared in the distance, a semi-truck barreling toward me. I stood, waving my arms, screaming for help. The truck slowed. The driver leaned out, eyes wide as he took me in, bloodied, shaking, barefoot. "Jesus Christ," he said. "What happened to you?" I tried to speak, tried to explain. Behind me, far back at the edge of the woods, I saw movement. The driver followed my gaze. Something tall stepped forward, then stopped, just short of the road. The driver froze. The man didn't cross. He just stood there, watching. The truck doors locked with a loud click. The driver yanked me inside and floored it. As the forest disappeared behind us, I realized something I hadn't before. The killer never chased me onto the road, because the road wasn't his. And now that I'd left the woods, I'd survived. But sometimes, late at night, I wake up certain I hear footsteps outside my window. Slow, heavy, waiting. I used to believe that living alone meant being safe. No roommates to forget locking doors. No kids to leave windows open. No late-night guests stumbling through the house half awake. Just me, my routines, and the quiet. I live in a small, one-story house at the edge of town. The kind of place realtors describe as cozy, when they really mean isolated. The nearest neighbour is far enough away that their porch light looks like a star on cloudy nights. I chose it intentionally because I liked the silence, and I liked knowing every sound my house made. At least, I thought I did. Every night before bed, I checked the locks in the same order. Front door, back door, windows, and finally the deadbolt. Then I would turn off the lights and let the darkness settle in like a blanket. That night was no different. I remember falling asleep to the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock in the hallway, mundane sounds that made the house feel safe. I don't know what woke me up at first. It wasn't loud, which is what unsettles me the most. It was subtle, something wrong rather than disruptive, like a breath taken where it didn't belong. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling, holding perfectly still. My heart hadn't started racing yet. I was still half asleep, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Then I heard it again, a soft, deliberate creak. It wasn't the house settling or the pipes. It was footsteps. They were slow and careful, the sound of someone trying very hard not to be heard. I reached for my phone on the nightstand but froze inches away from it. If I turned the screen on, the light would spill across the room like a flare in the dark. The footsteps stopped. In that moment, I realized whoever was in my house had heard me move. We stood there in silence, me in my bed, and them somewhere in my home, sharing the same breathless pause. I slid my hand under the mattress and wrapped my fingers around the heavy metal flashlight I kept there, the kind that feels more like a weapon than a tool. I had always told myself it was for power outages, but that lie fell apart the moment I heard the footsteps start again, closer this time. I could tell they were barefoot. Skin on hardwood makes a sound, shoes don't, softer and more intimate. The hallway light flicked on, and I knew I hadn't left it that way. A long, distorted shadow stretched across my bedroom floor, reaching toward my bed like a finger. Whoever was in my house wasn't rushing or panicking. They were comfortable. My bedroom door creaked open, and I saw him then, just a shape at first, standing in the doorway, backlit by the hallway glow. He was tall and thin, and he tilted his head slightly, as if he were studying something interesting. "Thought you'd sleep longer," he said, calmly, his voice unsettlingly familiar. I screamed as he rushed the bed. Everything that followed came in fragments, like broken pieces of film. I remember swinging the flashlight with everything I had and the dull, wet sound it made when it connected with his skull. He fell, but didn't stop moving. His hand closed around my ankle, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. I kicked and swung again and again. I don't remember deciding to do it. My body simply moved, stripped down to survival. When it was finally over, he wasn't moving anymore. His eyes were open, not angry or afraid, but disappointed. I backed away until I hit the wall and slid down to the floor, the flashlight slipping from my hand. My ears rang, my throat burned from screaming, and the room smelled sharp and metallic. I waited for him to move, but he never did. I called the police with shaking hands and told them someone had broken into my house. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. I kept repeating, "I think I killed him," until the dispatcher told me officers were on the way. The police arrived quickly, their lights washing the house in red and blue and shattering the darkness I once found comforting. They cleared every room, photographed the scene, and asked me to tell the story again. They used words like self-defense and justified, telling me I was safe now. The back door had been forced open, the deadbolt twisted and broken. The metal peeled back as if it had been pried open slowly and patiently. They took his body away in a black bag, and before they zipped it closed, I saw his face clearly for the first time. I didn't recognize him, and for reasons I couldn't explain, that disturbed me deeply. They left just before dawn, and I sat alone on my couch, staring at the pale morning light seeping through the windows, listening to the house breathe around me. I moved out a month later and into an apartment surrounded by people, noise, and walls thin enough to hear other lives moving around me. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, convinced I've heard something wrong. And sometimes I realize the most terrifying part wasn't that someone broke into my home. It's that he was already there. So lock your doors and check your windows and tell yourself you're safe. But remember this, no matter how comfortable your home feels, you're never truly alone.